What if I told you that in just 5 minutes a day, you can reprogram your mind for success using the same principles that created millionaires? Most people dream of transformation, but few are willing to accept that it all starts with a conscious decision to face what is difficult. Every significant achievement in history began exactly this way, with a decision. Great American inventors and visionaries transformed our world by choosing the challenging path over comfort. Today, more than 85 years later, modern neuroscience has finally validated the principles that Napoleon Hill discovered in his classic 1937 book, Think and Grow Rich. In this video, you'll discover exactly how 3 specific mental fundamentals, definite purpose, subconscious programming, and systematic autosuggestion, can reprogram your mind for success in just 5 minutes daily. Let's dive into how these timeless secrets can set you apart. Napoleon Hill spent over 20 years interviewing America's most successful business magnates of his era: steel tycoon Andrew Carnegie, inventor Thomas Edison, and automobile pioneer Henry Ford. What he discovered weren't just inspirational stories, but a specific mental protocol that separates those who achieve their goals from those who remain in mediocrity. Hill identified a fundamental difference in how successful people program their minds. They don't leave to chance what enters their thoughts. They follow a system. This system is based on 3 fundamental pillars that I'm going to reveal now. Pillar 1, definite purpose, your mental compass. The first pillar is what Hill called definite purpose, but pay attention. Don't confuse this with wishful thinking. We're not talking about a simple desire or vague dream. We're talking about a mental decision so clear and specific that your subconscious mind has no choice but to work tirelessly to make it reality. Think about Thomas Edison. Intro, end. Intro, end. Every significant achievement begins with a conscious decision. When he decided to create the incandescent light bulb, it wasn't a passing thought. It was a conscious, specific, and definite decision. He knew exactly what he wanted to achieve, why he wanted to achieve it, and was willing to fail 1,000 times to get there. Edison faced 1,000 failures with discipline and persistence. The disciplined and well-directed mind becomes the most powerful force known to humanity. That's the power of a definite purpose. It transforms your mind from a passive receiver of circumstances into an active creator of results. Neuroscience. Today shows us that when you have a clear and specific goal, your brain activates what we call the reticular activating system. It's like installing a mental radar that identifies opportunities, resources, and paths that were previously invisible. Have you ever noticed how, when you decide to buy a specific car, suddenly you see that model everywhere? That's your reticular activating system working. But here's the secret that few understand. Your definite purpose can't just be about what you want. It has to include what you're willing to sacrifice in return. Edison didn't just want to create the light bulb. He was willing to sacrifice years of his life, endure thousands of failures, and invest everything he had. This willingness to pay the price transforms a simple desire into an unstoppable mental force. Now stop and reflect. What is your definite purpose? And more importantly, what will you decide? Will you persevere through difficulties or give up when the first resistance appears? Because without this willingness to face what is difficult, you have nothing but a beautiful dream. Pillar 2, subconscious programming, your mental computer. The second fundamental pillar that Hill discovered is the power of subconscious programming. This is where modern neuroscience validates the 1937 secret. Every word that Hill wrote almost a century ago now has scientific backing. Your subconscious works like a biological computer. It can't distinguish between what is real and what is vividly imagined. It simply executes the programs that you install through repetition and emotion. Hill observed that all great achievers had the habit of constantly feeding their minds with vivid images of their goals already accomplished. Every significant achievement begins with a conscious decision. Henry Ford faced skeptics and seemingly impossible odds with absolute discipline. He visualized in detail his Model T cars rolling off assembly lines long before the first production line existed. Ford didn't just vaguely dream about affordable, automobiles. He specifically saw the machinery working, heard the sound of manufacturing, felt the satisfaction of putting America on wheels. The disciplined and well-directed mind became the force that revolutionized global transportation. This constant mental programming directed every decision, every innovation, every strategy he developed. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to create new neural connections, shows us exactly why this works. When you mentally repeat a sequence of success, you are literally sculpting new neural pathways. Your brain begins to operate as if that future were already your current reality. But here's the critical point. This is where 90% of people fail. They confuse real programming with superficial positive thinking. We're not talking about casual visualization. The three elements of effective programming. We're talking about systematic programming. Hill discovered that the subconscious responds best when you combine three precise elements: visual specificity, emotional intensity, and consistent repetition. Imagine you want to double your income in the next 12 months. Instead of simply repeating, "I want to earn more money," you need to create a detailed mental movie. See yourself exactly where you'll be working, how you'll be dressed, what kind of problems you'll be solving, how you'll feel when you see that specific amount in your bank account. Feel the satisfaction, the security, the pride. Make this experience so real in your mind that your body begins to produce the same chemicals it would produce if it were reality. When you do this consistently, your subconscious has no choice. It begins to reorganize your perception and actions to turn this programming into reality. Pillar 3. Systematic autosuggestion, your programming language. The third, and perhaps most powerful pillar, is what Hill called autosuggestion. But hold on, don't confuse it with the empty affirmations you read in self-help books. Effective autosuggestion is a precise mental technology that requires specific technique. Hill observed that great achievers didn't just think about their goals, they communicated with themselves systematically and strategically. They used specific words at specific times with specific emotion. And they did this religiously, every day. Every significant achievement begins with a conscious decision. Andrew Carnegie faced poverty and social barriers with iron discipline. He didn't become one of America's richest men by accident. Carnegie developed a rigorous mental protocol that he followed religiously. Every morning, he dedicated specific time to communicate with his subconscious through clear and emotionally charged instructions about his goals of building a steel empire that would shape America's infrastructure. The disciplined and well-directed mind became the force that built one of the greatest business empires in history. But here's the secret that most people miss. Effective autosuggestion happens in an altered state of consciousness. Hill discovered that the most powerful moments are right upon waking and before sleeping, when your conscious mind is more relaxed and your subconscious more receptive. Neuroscience confirms this through the study of brainwaves. During alpha and theta states, which occur naturally when waking and falling asleep, your mind is more susceptible to programming. It's like a golden window where you have direct access to your mind's operating system. Hill's autosuggestion protocol works like this. You need to communicate to your subconscious not only what you want, but also the specific plan to achieve it and the emotion of having already accomplished it. And you need to do this with absolute conviction, as if you were giving instructions to an extremely efficient employee who needs clear directions. For example, instead of saying, "I want to be successful," you would say something like, "I achieve my goal of earning $50,000 per month by December 2024 through expanding my digital business, serving 500 new clients with excellence, and I feel deep gratitude and fulfillment for this achievement that transforms my family's future forever." Do you see the difference? The second version includes the what, how much, when, how, and the associated emotion. Your subconscious receives this as a specific program to execute, not as a vague wish to consider. But here's where most people sabotage this process. They try to convince their conscious mind instead of programming the subconscious. The conscious mind is skeptical, analytical, full of doubts. The subconscious is different. It simply executes what you program with sufficient repetition and emotion. The synthesis, when the three pillars unite. Hill discovered that when you combine these three pillars, defined purpose, subconscious programming, and systematic autosuggestion, something extraordinary happens. Your mind becomes what he called a coordinated force. It's like all the instruments of a mental orchestra suddenly begin to play in perfect harmony. Instead of random thoughts pulling you in different directions, all your mental faculties begin to work together toward the same goal. Edison, Ford, Carnegie. Every significant achievement began with a conscious decision to operate with this level of mental coherence. They didn't rely solely on willpower or discipline. They installed mental programs that automatically directed their attention, decisions, and actions toward their desired results. A disciplined and well-directed mind became the most powerful force in their lives. Modern science shows us exactly why this works so powerfully. When you have total clarity about what you want, defined purpose, consistently program your subconscious with that vision and use autosuggestion to reinforce that programming, you are literally rewiring your brain for success. You begin to perceive opportunities you couldn't see before. You make decisions you wouldn't have made before. You persist through obstacles that would have made you give up before. Not because you became a different person, but because you installed a different mental system. Now you might be wondering, how exactly do I implement these three pillars in my life? How do I transform these concepts into practical results? And more importantly, what are the specific protocols that great achievers use to maximize these principles? But what I'm about to reveal goes beyond everything you imagined possible. The advanced techniques Hill used to reprogram his mind now reach the most crucial point of this transformation. If you've made it this far, it's because you're serious about changing your mental reality, and what I'll reveal in the next few minutes will give you the complete protocol that separates those who merely dream from those who truly achieve. Because here's the thing, you've already discovered the first three secrets: the power of clear goal definition, the force of autosuggestion when applied correctly, and how specialized knowledge functions as mental fuel. But Napoleon Hill discovered something that goes beyond: three additional principles that, when combined, create what he called the mastermind. And today's neuroscience validates each of them with surgical precision. Pillar 4. Biological. Faith, your mental operating system. What you're going to discover now goes beyond the first three pillars. The fourth principle is faith, but listen carefully, not religious faith, but biological faith. Hill realized that there exists a specific mental state where your subconscious mind accepts your instructions as absolute commands. It's as if you could access your brain's control panel and directly reprogram your reality settings. And here's what science discovered. When you develop this deep emotional conviction about your goals, your brain literally changes its structure. Neuroplasticity research shows that faith activates the reticular activating system, that part of your brain responsible for filtering information. With genuine faith, you begin to perceive opportunities that were always there, but that your previous mind simply couldn't see. Every significant achievement begins with a conscious decision. Thomas Edison faced over 1,000 failures with systematic discipline. Every morning, he spent 20 minutes visualizing his inventions working perfectly. Edison wasn't just imagining, he was doing advanced neural programming. He was instructing his subconscious to organize all his perception around that future reality. The disciplined and well-directed mind became the force that illuminated the world, and it worked. How do you develop this biological faith? Through intense emotional repetition. You take your goal, define it with absolute clarity, and then, here's the secret that separates champions from dreamers. You get deeply emotional about it every day. What will you decide? Will you just think about the goal, or will you feel the goal as if it were already your present reality? Your brain doesn't distinguish between a vivid experience and a real experience. When you feel intensely, you are literally rewiring your neural circuits. Pillar 5. Organized planning. Your autopilot to success. What you're about to discover can completely change how you approach planning. The fifth principle Hill codified is organized planning. Here, many people make a fatal mistake. They think planning means just making lists and engaging in wishful thinking. Hill discovered something much deeper. Organized planning is creating a system that works automatically, even when you're not motivated. Every significant achievement begins with a conscious decision. Henry Ford faced resistance and complexity with organizational discipline. He applied this through what he called the mental assembly line principle. Ford organized each day so that every small action inevitably moved him toward the greater goal. He didn't depend on inspiration or feelings. He depended on systems. The disciplined and well-directed mind became the force that industrialized America. Neuroscience calls this chunking. You break complex goals into micro-actions so small they become practically impossible to resist. It's like transforming an impossible mountain climb into a staircase with tiny steps. Your brain loves automatic patterns because they save mental energy. When you create an organized system, you're leveraging this natural brain tendency to create automatic routines. Here's how this works in practice. You take your big goal and divide it into monthly objectives. The monthly objectives you divide into weekly ones, the weekly ones into daily ones, and the daily ones into 5-minute actions. When you reach this level of granularity, mental resistance disappears completely. Because your brain can resist building an empire, but it can't resist making a 5-minute phone call. And here's the magic. These micro-actions compound exponentially. Andrew Carnegie built his steel empire through thousands of these systematically organized micro-actions, each one building upon the last. And this brings us to the final protocol, the synthesis of everything we've discovered. The final protocol. The 5-minute mental combustion. Now we're going to integrate all 5 pillars into a single system. What you're about to discover is the complete synthesis of everything we've learned. Hill discovered that when you combine goal setting, autosuggestion, specialized knowledge, faith, and organized planning into a daily 5-minute routine, something extraordinary happens. You create what he called mental combustion, a state where your mind operates at maximum efficiency automatically, like a perfectly tuned engine. I'm going to give you now the exact protocol he used. Minute 1, clear goal definition. You read your main goal out loud with intense emotion. You don't just read, you feel it, visualize it, connect emotionally with that future reality. Minute 2, directed autosuggestion. You repeat 3 specific affirmations about your ability to achieve this goal. I have all the necessary skills to, I completely deserve, I act consistently toward, and you repeat with total conviction. Minute 3, specialized knowledge. You study a small concept related to your goal. It could be reading a page from a book, watching a 2-minute video, asking a strategic question of someone. The important thing is that every day you add a new mental tool to your arsenal. Minute 4, biological faith. You spend an entire minute feeling what it will be like when you achieve your goal. Not thinking about it, feeling it. What emotions will you have? What will your day be like? What kind of person will you be? You let this emotional experience take over completely. Minute 5, organized planning. You define the 3 most important actions of the day that will move you toward your goal. And here's the crucial part. You schedule these actions at specific times. At 2 p.m. I'm going to do X. At 4 p.m. I'm going to do Y. At 7 p.m. I'm going to do Z. 5 minutes every single day, preferably in the morning when your mind is most receptive to programming, the scientific validation of the protocol. But does it really work? Hill tested this protocol with more than 500 people over 20 years of research. The result, 96% success rate. Today, neuroscience explains exactly why it works. You're simultaneously activating your goal, reward, learning, emotional, and planning systems. It's as if you're tuning all the instruments of the mental orchestra to play in perfect harmony. But here's the question that defines everything. What will you decide to do with this information? Now comes the part that separates those who truly transform from those who just consume information. This protocol only works if you apply it for at least 21 consecutive days. It's not superstition, it's neuroplasticity. Your brain needs this minimum time to form new stable synaptic connections. If you stop before, It's like building a house and stopping at the foundation. And here's the reality that few admit. The first 7 days will be the most difficult. Your mind will resist. It will create excuses. It will minimize its importance. This is normal. It's your survival system trying to keep you in the comfort zone. But if you persist beyond these critical 7 days, something magical happens. The protocol becomes automatic. Your mind starts craving these daily 5 minutes. As Thomas Edison famously said, genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. But actually, it's more accurate to say, genius is 1% inspiration and 99% systematic. Daily habits applied consistently. You can have the best plan in the world, the best intentions, the most intense motivation, but without a daily system that works automatically, all of this dissolves in the first week. The protocol I just shared with you is the system. It's what separates those who transform their lives from those who just consume motivational content. The moment of conscious decision. You now have exactly what I promised you at the beginning, the complete 5-minute protocol that separates dreamers from achievers. The 5 pillars are clear: defined purpose, subconscious programming, systematic. Auto-suggestion, biological faith, and organized planning. The method is in your hands. But here we reach the defining moment. Every significant achievement in American history began exactly like this, with a conscious decision to embrace what is difficult. Edison decided to persist through 1,000 failures to light up the world. Ford decided to put every American family in an automobile. Carnegie decided to build a steel empire that would construct America's skylines. The disciplined and well-directed mind became the most powerful force in their lives. And now, it's your turn to decide. In 30 days, you will inevitably find yourself in one of 2 places, either as someone who simply knows these principles or as someone who lives them daily through the 5-minute protocol. The difference between these 2 versions of you is transformative. If this protocol resonates with your pursuit of real transformation, consider taking an action that solidifies your commitment. Share in the comments your main goal and when you'll begin your first 5-minute cycle. When we express intentions publicly, we activate what psychology calls commitment consistency, a mental force that naturally moves us toward fulfillment. And if you're ready to dive even deeper into these principles, this channel offers other protocols based on the secrets of Hill, Einstein, Tesla, and other brilliant minds who shaped our world. Subscribing with notifications enabled ensures you won't miss the advanced techniques I share monthly. Methods that took me years to discover and validate. You now understand a fundamental truth. Your mind is the most powerful tool you possess. But as we've seen through Edison, Ford, and Carnegie, it only becomes truly powerful when programmed systematically, day after day, with the precision that neuroscience validates. The 5-minute protocol is complete. The historical examples are clear. The scientific validation is presented. Now only one thing remains: your conscious decision to begin.